back to our conversation on matters devolution. Professor, before we went to, for that break, you wanted to respond to issues to do with our continuous civic education, and also, while at it, just respond to the fact that political positions have turned to be an easiest way out of poverty. People get in there to be rich.
Yes, as I do that, let me also comment on what my brother here said earlier on about the fact that affairs of devolution have now been taken to the office of the Deputy President, and he was supportive of that and argued that there are other jurisdictions where that happens. You either take it to the office of the President or Deputy President. I will not dispute the fact that it's possible that in other jurisdictions that is the case. But I think it is important to recognize that there is always a context to which we must relate some of these things. And the Kenyan context, therefore, needed to be taken into account when you move it from the situation where it was as an independent ministry, so to speak, and then you take it to the office of the Deputy President. By doing that, you actually, devolution loses visibility. These days, you hardly hear people talking about devolution the way we used to do when we had a minister in charge of devolution. And that is one big challenge or loss that I see when you hide it under the office of the Deputy President that is so busy with so many other things that it may not give devolution a priority. So this context must be taken into account. In fact, I do think that if this ministry, if this devolution had its own ministry, an independent, standalone ministry, perhaps these questions of civic education and so on would have been done much better than what we have today. So that is my problem with taking it to the office of the Deputy President. In any case, nobody has explained to Kenyans why it was necessary to kill that ministry and put the affairs of devolution under the office of the Deputy President. We are saying we are in a democratic society. We are saying there must be public participation. And while we may agree that the President has the prerogative to decide which ministries to create and so on, I think he owes us an explanation of why you remove a ministry that is so key to the success of the devolved system of government. So that is part of the problem that I have with the current arrangement. As far as the resource issue is concerned, it baffles me. It baffles me why the national government, why Parliament cannot allocate adequate resources to enable county governments carry out their functions that are actually provided for in the Constitution. These are not functions that the county governments are claiming out of thin air. They are functions that are provided for in the Constitution, and as we said before, and is in the Constitution as well, functions must be supported by resources. Resources follow function. So that is a problem. But at the same time, we must ask the question, why is it that there's so much complaint about misuse of public resources in this country? And I'm using that deliberately. Because when you talk about devolution, you must consider the fact that there are two levels of government. That's what devolution is about, at least two levels in our case, the national and the county. And there is complaint about misuse of public resources both at the national and county level. The general term used is corruption. Now, if we know that that is what the problem is, and there are institutions that have been created or established to deal with corruption, to deal with issues of integrity or lack of integrity, the question is, why are these institutions not operating optimally? And, you know, again, I want to repeat, you know, it's both national and county. We have seen cases where people with questionable integrity are actually appointed to very senior public positions in this country, both at the national level and at the county government level. we have been treated to reports about corrupt practices or questionable practices in terms of importation of things like sugar, medicines, and so on. And yet no action is actually taken.
Let me come to you, Mr. Kinuthia. How do you respond to that as we close? In 2 minutes, sir.
The most important part I want to respond to, and I don't want to lose it. He has adequately answered the issue of management of resources. I don't want to repeat that. But I want to go to the hidden facts. This issue of taking the devolution to the office of the Deputy President probably has a hidden meaning. People may not know, and I want to disclose this, that they always say transition authority was very effective, was very powerful. Yes, it was powerful because it was just like the implementation commission.
Yes.
We got such independence like they had. It was being treated like an independent commission. So we could do things without answering to anybody. However, we needed the political goodwill and we needed the support. That political goodwill, if you want to know, came from the Deputy President, who is now the President. The Deputy President always called me and he wanted to know what is troubling you. Where can I help? What can I do? And you saw him in many areas in his pronouncement as the Deputy President under the Intergovernmental Budget, whatever committee. You saw him in other areas. But I can tell you, in the background, he was my bulwark, he was my pillar. And he allowed me to defy him. In the sense that if he told me something, I would tell him, you are now talking as national government, and I cannot answer to you because I am an independent person. So it is important that we have an independent body supervising or overseeing the implementation of devolution. And this was made in our recommendation that Parliament passes a bill to strengthen the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, give it the independence, the power, and the ability that the TA had. And I want to part with that Intergovernmental Relations Committee must be empowered and must be given statutory powers to oversight implementation of devolution.
Thank you very much, Kinuthia Mwangi, former Transition Authority Chairperson, and Professor Peter Wanyande, Professor for 30 years, and also former member of the Constitution Implementation Commission. Issues to do with devolution will continue, and yes, indeed, KTN News we shall be covering that for you. But now let's go to Nyeri County and touch base with our reporter, Clement Masombo, is following up on the ASK show in Nyeri County. Good morning, Clement Masombo. What do you have for us from that?